countdown of albums in a class of their own.
Misshapes, mistakes, misfits. We like to go to town, but we can't risk it all. 'Cause they just wanna keep.
I felt that for a long time in my life I'd been a product of Thatcher's Britain or whatever. A lot of people were made to feel very worthless.
Brothers, sisters, can't you see? The future's owned by you and me.
And so when suddenly we started selling some records and stuff, I thought, this is it, come on, revolution, let's do something. It was exciting, you know, you felt like things could change. It's difficult because if you write songs about social things, you can produce really, really horrible music. In fact, you usually do. My excuse, I suppose, was that I always tried to base the songs on actual events.
She came from Greece, she had a thirst for knowledge. She studied sculpture at St. Martin's College, that's where
Common People's about a girl that he went out with at art college who thought he was great because he was working class.
She told me that her dad was loaded.
I think it's about the fetishization of working class culture, which was all over the place at the time. Jobs Cocker was one of the people who kind of stood up and kind of saw straight through it and saw how fake that was.
The good thing about writing songs is that you can alter real events and make yourself look better. She did say that she wanted to live with common people. That much is true, but she never wanted to sleep with me. In my dreams.
Our mother said we could be sister and brother. Your name is Deborah.
Disco 2000, that was the true story of this girl who lived down our road who was born, I think, the day before me.
And they said that when we grew up, we'd get married and never split up.
And I really fancied her at school, but I had no chance.
Although I often thought of it, oh Deborah, do you recall?
I'm really pleased that people have a soft spot for that record. That's the best thing about getting featured in something like this. It means that in some weird, random way you are connected with people in some way. And I find that quite touching.
Oh yeah! Oh yeah!
You may go to college, you may go to school, you may have a pink Cadillac, but don't you be nobody's fool.
I think Elvis is probably the first exciting performer to come along. I think he created more excitement than anybody before him. I think it turned a lot of adults off. They thought he was too sexual, but I think it turned the kids on.
Come on back to meet the little girl so we can play some.
The Sun Sessions always comes out in polls as the best Elvis album, but he never recorded it as an album. It came out in the 70s as a collection of the tracks he had recorded for Sun before he joined RCA. So you have 2 years of songs on this one record.
Baby, I'm like, baby, I want to play house with you. Yeah.
Elvis had decided that he wanted to use a facility that his local recording studio, i.e. Sun Recording Studio, and he decided that he wanted to go in and record a track especially for his mum, Gladys. Now, the receptionist sort of caught wind of this performance that was going on and was pretty blown away by what she heard. So she kept aside a cut of that acetate, which she then played to Sam Phillips, the owner of the studio. Boom, boom. The rest is history.
Well, that's all right, Mama. That's all right for you. That's all right, Mama. Just any way you do.
Sam Phillips knew what he had. He knew what he was doing. And critics have always preferred this material because it's made before the self-conscious period of Elvis Presley recordings. You can listen to it now and still think this is a miracle.
At 67, the second of 2 movie soundtracks in our list, and one that many say became more significant than the film itself.
Don't forget, you know it's to a dime. The game it plays for keeps. Hustling times and ghetto streets, trying to get on. That's what they're trying to do, y'all.
This is a song that isn't really finished, you know. It needs another verse to it still, but it's got a little bit of it there, and when I go home late at night, this is a song that I really like to sing right now, so I'll play it for you. It's called My Old Man.
This album, Blue by Joni Mitchell, is something that I grew up with, and I just grew to love it. I mean, I can sing it from start to finish.
My old man, he's a singer in the park.
She did something with her voice that nobody else did. She was totally unique in her style, the way she used her voice like an instrument. She sang low and she sang high, and she just made you feel incredible.
Keeping us tight and true no more.
You introduced me to that album.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
It's a beautiful record.
Even though I'm not a Joni Mitchell expert at all, and I wasn't around at the time, I just fall completely in love with the Joni Mitchell that exists in the lyrics of Blue. I just think there's such a beautiful honesty to it, you know, almost painfully so.
Born with the moon in Cancer.
There's that song Little Green on the album, which is about the baby she was forced to give up. And again, that is a painful but beautiful song to listen to.
Call her green, and the winters cannot fade her. Call her green for the children who've made her little green.
I've never heard a mother's love for a child articulated as well as is done in that song. And if I ever have a daughter, I would definitely call her green because of that song, I think.
And now, a treat for police fans. That's the pop group, Not the Other Kind.
Synchronicity by the Police really was the album that took them onto the world stage. They were probably Britain's biggest pop group throughout 1979, 1980 and 81. But it was Synchronicity that took them from being the biggest band in Britain to probably the biggest band on the planet. It also was the album that precipitated their demise because it was the last album they ever made.
When we recorded Synchronicity, I think we were pretty sure that it was going to be a big hit because we were a huge group already. And I mean, we were there in the Caribbean and Montserrat Air Studios and had that sort of luxury. We could afford that luxury because we knew that we were pretty sure to get, you know, a multi-million selling album. So we thought it was going to be big. It was kind of incredible while we passed through that moment, but you know, I think it took its toll. You know, and you know, by the time we recorded Synchronicity, we were sort of in a nuclear fission state. Favorite songs on the Synchronicity album? I mean, the obvious one that everybody loved was "Every Breath You Take."
Every breath you take, and every move you make.
I think I could say this because I guess it's pretty, well-known history at this point, but Sting had, divorced his first wife, and it was really a song about sort of paranoia and suspicion, and that he felt that he was being watched. It wasn't the love song. There's a sort of a double interpretation to it.
The song is called King of Pain.
We probably gave Sting a bit of grief about, the King of Pain. Ooh, Ducky.
There's a little black spot on the song today.
What it's about, I have no idea. Pain, presumably.
The odd thing is, I suppose, that it's such a vastly successful album, and you expect them to immediately start trying to capitalise on that a little bit, and they don't. It's just deathly silent, you know, which obviously we now know is because the band had broken up.
I was sad, of course, you know, and very, sort of psychologically shattered, for a while after we did break up and after the Synchronicity recording, because we'd come off such an amazing high, and then it's and now you can adjust to reality. It's like, whoa, wait a minute, which station are we on? Very difficult. Of course it does. You can see that I'm completely normal, so we got there.
Sometimes I feel like I don't have a partner. Sometimes I feel like my only friend is the city I live in, the city of angels. Lonely as I am, together we cry.
Play is a very inventive record. The idea of taking old blues and gospel samples and surrounding them in these sort of almost metaphysical sounding electronic soundscapes it's a great idea.
Alan Lomax is considered America's foremost folklorist. He collected music all over the American South, from the prisons to the work camps to tobacco fields.
Way down yonder, sometime below the law, sometime work from marriage, sometime.
They're incredibly affecting songs, especially Vera Ward Hall's song, Trouble So Hard.
Don't nobody know my trouble but God.
And it's a very, very intensely moving song about the plight of a black woman in the American South in the 30s and 40s. And that became Moby's natural blues.
Soul got happy and stayed all day.
When people talk of musical theft, the counter to that is that potentially people who are going to hear these things and go, what is that, where does it come from, and investigate that kind of music in and of itself. So that's a good thing.
The Moby album has served these purposes very well for us because it has brought in so many royalties that we can then pass on to the heirs of these artists. We send them checks, they're happy to hear from us, and they're very happy the Moby album was out.
Don't stop thinking about tomorrow. Don't stop, it will soon be here. It will be better than before. Yesterday's gone, yesterday's gone. You can go your own way, go your own way. You can call it another lonely day.
Songs just come out of poems, and sometimes poems come out of dreams or reality.
I think the Jeff Buckley record Grace is it's on my MP3 player, and it holds up incredibly well.
Is the moon asking to stay long enough for the clouds to fly me away?
Jeff Buckley was an American singer, songwriter, thinker, tremendous talent, with an immense potential and possibly in possession of greatness, of true greatness, and really only recorded one finished album, which is called Grace.
Rise to the clicking of time.
Jeff loved music, I think, from the time he could hear my piano through the wall of my belly. I was a piano player, still am, and I know my belly pressed against the fingerboard for the last 2 months. As an infant, he reacted to music in a very interesting and precocious way. And then as he grew up, he was, in his own words, enchanted by it and captured by it. And it became the most important thing in his life.
I heard there was a secret chord that David played and it pleased the Lord. But you don't really care for music, do you?
My favourite moment from Grace, would have to be definitely Hallelujah. I mean, it is such a special song.
Composing hallelujah.
So many of my friends have told me that, they cried when they first heard that song, and I'm definitely not an exception to that rule.
The night of May 29th, 1997 was the night before Jeff was to begin recording the second album, long-awaited second album. And they had rented mattresses for the floor of his little rental house and gotten ready for the band to fly in. They were actually landing at the airport when the accident happened.
Just after sundown last night, detectives say a friend saw him jump into the water fully clothed. He never resurfaced.
We've got some witnesses that heard someone apparently hollering for help.
The search began within 20 minutes after. And it was 11 o'clock my time when I got the call from the police. I didn't believe them. It was impossible to believe. I packed a suitcase with a bathing suit. I was sure they were just looking in the wrong place.
Good love from going wrong. But tonight, you're on my mind so.
If he were still with us today, he'd be much bigger than he is now. He would have met and touched and performed before so many more people.
It's not too late.
After the break, pills, thrills, and a tense nervous headache for Paul Weller of The Jam.
R.A.&R. man, he just came in one day and said, listen, this is shit and you've got to start again.
Holly came from Miami, FLA, hitchhiked across to USA. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that's me.
One of the funniest things that happened in LA was when Julia Roberts tried chatting us up.
First albums. There have been some great threesomes in the history of rock and roll. Cream, The Police, Rod, Jane and Freddie. And at number 60, it's a classic by perhaps the best of the lot.
Ladies and gentlemen, wham bam, thank you, The Jam.
Where the streets are paved with blood, cataclysmic overtones.
I was a very serious-minded young man, And I took my art and craft very seriously, as indeed I still do, I suppose, but even more so then, I didn't know how to lighten up at all, it was just...
There's a neighbor in Water Street.
All My Cons was our third album, and we'd made 2 records. We made 2 albums in the first year we'd been signed in '77. The first one was fairly successful, and the second one was pretty much a disaster. So the third album was a little bit kind of make or break.
If that album hadn't hit, that would have been the end of The Jam. That would have been it. I'm pretty sure the record company would have dropped them, because there was that feeling that they were finished.
We started working on the records, and I only had a few songs, all of which were awful. And luckily for us, R.A.&R. man who signed us, he just came in one day and said, listen, this is shit, and you've got to start again, or you've got to have a rethink on this. Literally just that. Which was great. It was good that someone had done, because I was thinking it, but no one had the balls to sort of say it in a way. Well, we had nothing else to go to, you know, we had nothing else to use anyway.
He went back to Woking, his kind of spiritual hometown, as it were, and he played a lot of Kinks. He was listening to a lot of Ray Davies.
Take my exams and pass the lot.
And I think it was there that he kind of got the idea of updating the Kinks' sort of perspective and started writing songs about what was around him, which was suburbia. And when people out there heard these songs, which reflected their lives really, you know, in a poetic and very kind of concise manner, that's what catapulted the Jam into, you know, into their position as the premier band, and they were for the next 3-4 years, really.
Distant echo of faraway voices boarding faraway trains.
All My Cons was the album that really kind of made everything blow up big for us, and the audiences got bigger, I think, around that time, you know. But I never certainly had any long-term vision. I mean, I had this, I always thought, you know, being in the band was what young people did. It's probably true, really.
It's a bit like being in a goldfish bowl, you know, like sort of like the kids up there now. I can't handle that. And I can't handle sort of hysteria.
I don't know if there was ever a really happy relationship in our band. I mean, we had our moments. There's a lot of tension in our band, you know, but there was even before we made it. We were very, very different characters, which I suppose all added to the kind of intensity overall, in a good way, in a positive way. So when we got on stage, it was like, you know, bang.
At 59, it's Hello Elton and Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, a double album that topped the American charts for 8 weeks.
I liked Elton's Goodbye Yellow Brick Road because I thought it was a very versatile album. I thought he had a very clear and exciting and nice voice, and I think he had a little sense of humor in his voice.
Goodbye Yellow Brick Road is sort of the high watermark of his productivity in the early 70s.
Those around you crawl.
This is a guy who's been sort of unsuccessful for a considerable length of time in the 60s, has kind of struggled, has seen his chance at fame and is absolutely determined to seize it.
The candle burned out long before legendary.
He was, of course, a great and is a great character. At the time I drew him for the cover, he had a streak of bright pink dye in his hair, which was considered quite something at the time. And also, when I was at the record company, listening to the tapes, and we were discussing the kind of images we might include on the cover drawing, people would say to me, "Oh, could you include a piano? Elsie loves pianos. Oh, and could you put in a teddy bear? Because Elsie's really keen on teddy bears." Now, at first, I had no idea who Elsie might be. I thought it might be the tea lady, but of course, after 10 minutes of this kind of conversation, I realised Elsie must refer to Elton.
Wow, yeah, what a great record. It completely defined a new sound. Combination of lounge music, electronics, and this beautiful French harmonies.
When I discovered the whole record, I didn't expect it to be so consistent, because that's what a classic record has to be. Every track has to stand up, and there can't be any room for throwaway tracks. Moon Safari definitely does that. It's beautiful, emotional music.
It's just amazing, especially as they did it in their front room. They did it with no money, and you can actually hear the children playing in the school next door on one of the tracks. Because they were recording the piano and they had the window open. When it was first released, it was seen as this very kind of spacey, sort of quite avant-garde record. And it's been used so much as like sound beds for property programmes, gardening programmes and holiday programmes.
In a way, it could be associated with that whole kind of retro, mellow kind of thing that was happening at the time, but the songs were so good that it'll transcend that moment, whatever was fashionable at that moment.
It's a great shagging record as well. I did a lot of shagging to it.
Prince is the kind of reason that I do what I do, that everything sort of comes from him, really. He's completely my favourite producer, my favourite artist, you know, ever. And Sign of the Times was incredibly special because it's a double album that had, you know, 3 or 4 kind of hits on it. But also with that album, for me, it was one of the best dance albums ever made. You know, they're dance tracks, they're club tracks, they're some of them, you know, are kind of house music tracks.
Sign of the Times. Now this is an absolute smasher of an album. If you check the lyrics of Sign of the Times, you know, it's like a social commentary.
A skinny man died of a big disease with a little name. By chance his girlfriend came across a needle and soon she did the same.
And artists who are involved in wearing tight clothes and high heels and eyeliner, they don't usually make records like this. You know, it's usually about kissing the girl next door, and he does those kind of tracks as well. But he also makes very good social commentary.
When a rocket ship explodes, and everybody still.
Do you know something? I fundamentally mistrust anybody who says to me that they don't like Prince. I wouldn't even have half a lager with somebody who said to me they don't like Prince. I mean, your life is almost pointless if you haven't heard Sign of the Times.
From Prince to another songwriter who knew when the times were a-changin'. Bob Dylan and Blood on the Tracks is at 55 in our countdown.
Suddenly I turned around and she was standing there with silver bracelets on her wrist and flowers in her hair. She walked up to me so gracefully, took my crown of thorns, and then she said, I'll give you shelter from the storm.
One day after I had a friend of mine called me up and said, Holly, turn on the radio. They're playing a song about you. I went, what?
Holly came from Miami, FLA. Hitchhiked her way across USA. Plucked her eyebrows on the way.
Plucked my eyebrows on the way, shaved my legs, now I'm a sheep. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that's me.
Said, hey honey, take a walk on the wild side.
The various characters in Wild Side, of course they're real, but it's just a quick little cruise by. They're like little digital snapshots of these people.
Candy came from out on the island. In the back room she was everybody's darling. But she never lost her head, even when she was given head.
Lou takes us on a journey. We join him and we get a bit of the fun that he had with exploring the sides that society never wanted him to look at.
And the colored girls go do-do-do, do-do-do.
That album and that album cover came to exemplify that period, the kind of, it was glam rock, but it was the decadent end. It wasn't the glittery stuff.
Just a perfect day. drinks.
I love these photos from Mick Rock and the way I look there. I would so much like to be that person, but I'm not. But it's really fun to be it for, you know, however long you're singing or writing a song.
Just a perfect day. Feed animals in the zoo.
That photo of Lou wasn't shot for the album cover. The back of the cover, conceptually, was originally going to be the front of the cover. The gentleman on the right was actually the art director, a guy called Ernie Thormelin. Ernie was enormously popular after that, but that actually was a banana wrapped in a sock, literally, because I saw the wrapping going on, and I remember the very good-looking banana that they wrapped up for it.
You just keep me hanging on.
At 53, not so much a movie soundtrack as a rock opera that became a film, as well as a Broadway musical.
He's a pinball wizard, there has to be a twist. A pinball wizard's got such a subtle wrist. Oh, listening to you, I got the music gazing at you. I got the heat following you. I climb the mountain, I get excitement at your feet.
I always say it's impossible to remember how bloody awful the early 70s were. Anyone who says they were anything but utter shite, it was the most dreadful period of crap, overblown, shite music. It was ELO writ large. Patti Smith's Horses was the first breath of fresh air.
Redondo Beach is a beach where women la bada.
The glory of Patti Smith's Horses is you've got a New York poetess playing at being a rock star. By 77, 78, she was a rock star playing at being a New York poetess. But that first moment is fantastic.
Jolly kiss, Mr. Death. I'll kiss Oscar Wilde.
It's the record that really got me writing. It really got me writing lyrics and really got me writing songs.
Time is now. The time is now.
I played it to death. I was on a kibbutz in Israel, and we only had one record to play, and it came over from America.
White, shining, silver studs.
I must have listened to it 100 times in the 3 months I was out there, or more, and it got me writing.
I think without Patti Smith there would have been no Smiths. That's without a doubt. Because I knew through friends that Morrissey was a Patti Smith fan before I approached him, and I knew that we had that in common. So I knew he was going to be all right, and that we'd be able to do something, because if all we did was sound like the Patti Smith group, that would have been a pretty good start.
There was a lot of pills, there was a lot of thrills, there was a lot of belly aches. It was really what was going on at that time, and then when you think about it, pills, thrills, belly aches, great title for an album.
Son, I'm 30. I only went with your mother 'cause she's dirty, and I don't have a decent bone in there. What you get is just what you see, yeah.
I have no doubt that Sean's behaviour, the drug myths, having your photograph taken in a jacuzzi with 3 tarts, has stopped the middle-class wankers that we are really accepting that this is one of the great 50 bands in the history of British rock and roll. It's hard to imagine that he writes the most amazing poetry.
Twisting my melon, man. You know you speak so hip, man. You twisting my melon, man.
I tried to explain to him that he does. Oh, fuck off.
I don't want to hear that crap because, I mean, it's absolute bollocks.
Kind of like street poetry, really. That's the way I look at it. And It's just describing what's going on. It's talking about our experiences and lives.
I felt it would be the right thing to do as the producer was to get out of England. You've got these crazy characters that you've got to get a record out of.
So like the height of the Mondays, we just felt like it could never end, and we're buzzing our socks off, going to top parties. One of the funniest things that happened in LA was when Julia Roberts tried chatting us up.
The thing was, I remember Ben coming over to me in the club saying, "Who's Julia Roberts? Who is she?" I said, "Right, you know when we watched that film about the chick who chops off with a geezer with the big car, Pretty something, yeah. Right, well, you know the chick, yeah, well, that's it. Fucking hell, right. Why? She's chatting me up." I said, "Right, man." You know, so he said, "Right, I'm off."
A year later, the Monday said we're going to Barbados because there's no smack on Barbados, and didn't check and find out that it was Crack Central, which was a bit of a mistake looking back on it. Thanks, guys.
So we're now halfway through our quest to find the best set of songs ever recorded. After the break, find out which of these stars have made the top 50.
Welcome to the Hotel California. 'Cause I gotta have faith. Just Marshall Mathers. Never mind.
100 greatest albums as we kick